Emeritus of Geology at Miami University, former chair of the department. And as a faculty member, he was a very active participant in the Institute for Environmental Science. Now he has been serving for many years on the board of the Three Valley Conservation Trust. And if you drive down Patterson Avenue to the foot of Patterson Avenue, you'll often see Mark's truck there, and he is extending the accessible boardwalk from all the way down to 4 Mile Creek. And he's out there usually working by himself out there. I don't think there's anybody better suited to talk about the outdoor Oxford 30 years ago, what it's like now. And although I won't be around to see it, what it'll be like 30 years from now. So Mark, take it over.
Okay, I'm gonna start the screen sharing and we'll see how that works. Is that showing up well?
Not yet.
No, it's not coming through yet.
Not coming through yet.
Did Dan give you permission to come on? I mean, he has to give you the authority to come on, doesn't he? Whoever the host is.
There we go.
There we go.
Better?
Yep.
Oh, that's terrific. Well, my name is Mark Boardman. I'm going to say a few words about my perspectives, my perception of the great outdoors. And generally, I think it was good 30 years ago. I think it's a whole lot better now. And I think it could be better yet in the future. I think we have a lot to be proud of here in Oxford. Certainly when I came to Oxford years and years ago, I was drawn to it because it was a great place to raise children. It had parades, it had high school bands. It was terrific, and that was very attractive. I also like the idea that it was very much connected to the outdoors. So this combination of having a small town atmosphere with a lot of great outdoor, for me, was terrific. And for me, it was just that. And I loved going to see the wildflowers and if you haven't seen the bluebells in the Miami natural areas, it's really one of the wonders of Oxford to see in late April, usually. When children came along, it was a perfect place, I thought, for my kids. We would go out and wander around streams. We would play in mud. We would do what we could. And I just wanted to make sure that we all understood that the outdoors is really great for kids in particular. It is helpful for physical development. It helps them develop socially. It certainly increases their imagination, their ability to really think and imagine things. And I think it increases their knowledge as well, much better than many other ways of learning. Well, it's also good for me. I felt really good outdoors. This is a picture of the Rotary boardwalk that we are building. But many areas of the outdoors, I would just find some real peace and quiet. It turns out that's not just an emotional connection, but it looks like being outdoors lowers your pulse rate. So people living in the urban area generally have a higher pulse rate, a little bit more anxious perhaps, a little bit, maybe a quicker pace in their life. In the forested area, it's a lot quieter, a lot calmer. And that's done with some better experimental work, I think. People had their pulse rate, were just viewing urban areas, and then they were switched to a forest area, and their pulse rate went down just by being in the forest versus being in an urban area. They didn't have to do anything else. It's also good for lowering your blood pressure, apparently. People after viewing and walking in forests versus urban areas, their blood pressure was lower. And some measure of anxiety. I'm not sure how that was done. I'm kind of skeptical if it doesn't have kind of numbers like blood pressure or something, but the anxiety level appears to go down. In the 1980s, when I, am referring to, we had a lot of great areas to be in the outdoors. Some were big, like Houston Woods. Some were more, were smaller. Leonard Howell was a smaller one. The Tri Park was one that you could sit and enjoy. The Uptown Park with the water tower was terrific. We had elementary schools that had playgrounds, and I just want to mention Des Fleurs as well. They are a terrific, they have little kind of gems in the city of Oxford that they keep. And then Silver Nature Preserve was available just around 1980. Well, they were a mixture, and that's an important element to what I'm saying here. It wasn't not all of the outdoor areas were controlled by or owned by any one entity. The state and the university had the two biggest areas that were available to us. The city had several smaller areas, and the school system also had some individual small areas. Silver Nature Preserve was primarily private. The access to it was part of it through Peffer Park was the university, but the other part was a private entrance. The multi-jurisdictional aspect of it, I think, makes the Oxford outdoor areas particularly robust. And I would encourage us to pay very close attention in the future to how different agencies contribute to our quality of life. This is a picture of the Silver Nature Preserve. It's privately owned. It hasn't changed much in years. It's not accessible to any but the sure-footed people. The stairway going down is challenging. The pathways are relatively challenging, but it's a beautiful nature preserve. It's slowly being, this honeysuckle, the invasive species, are being combated by yearly honeysuckle pulls, but it's a terrific area. Audubon has, or someone, I think it's the Audubon, sets up wildflower walks in the spring every week. And it's really worthwhile to go to several of them because wildflowers in the spring are coming out at different times in there. The elementary schools in the 80s were eliminated, a lot of them. Hanover, Riley, Somerville, Collinsville. These local schools, their sites over the next 30 years became playing fields. Many of them with pavilions. They were turned over for community access. And so the elementary schools were a terrific, that was a great decision to keep them within the outdoor, within the green space of the Oxford area. The Coalition for Healthy Communities right now, Amy Machecko is working, and her groups of terrific volunteers are writing grants. They're getting money for playground equipment. They're helping to sustain these pockets, these outlying area pockets. They've been terrifically successful with the Riley Field as well, where they have a wonderful community center, several ball fields that are available to the Riley community. Unfortunately, when we got rid of Stewart, the decision was made not to retain it, but to sell it. And that goes also for the Talawanda High School. There were decisions, we all have choices to make. The city and the community made those choices, and we will live with them. But there's no going back now. Once those properties are sold and they become developed, In the case of Stewart in particular, they're pretty well gone from being a community owned asset. We still have the DeWitt Cabin, and that's gone through some great improvements. That's the Oxford Museum Association that sustains that effort, and that's a private. It's a private club. It's a public. You can join if you want to. You just pay your dues, and they've been very successful in doing that. Another one that's been very successful in reusing historical buildings has been the Oxford Community Arts Center. They have a terrific green space around them that they're controlling. These are outstanding examples of kind of public generated sustaining things. The Miami Natural Areas it now has and developed during that time a bird blind that is open to the public. You can walk in it. This is the walkway into the bird blind, and to the right there is a pollinator garden that was developed as well. Jim Reed was the kind of instigator behind a lot of these natural areas things, but Miami University has been very important in sustaining a green corridor, a green perimeter around especially the eastern portion of Oxford. And the bird blind is one terrific asset that's come about in the last 30 years. The city itself alone has developed the uptown area. Gone is the water tower. But in its place, in this uptown area, is a really wonderful water feature and sitting areas for a lot of people. It's a great community asset. The pavilion is a terrific asset as well. It really adds a lot to the quality of life, I think, in Oxford. And so we should be very proud, I think, of what the city has done, what the private groups have done, what Miami University has done. Those are things that are really great. I just want to throw in here that in becoming more, I guess, walkable and more usable outdoors, biking is an outdoor activity. And the city of Oxford is developing and sustaining and encouraging use of bikes and the decreased use of cars. They've gotten rid of some parking, and we can be irritated or glad for that. But they've also added bike lanes, and I think the net result, to my mind, is a terrific improvement. And so it's another kudo to the city and to the public that's elected the city officials for doing this. Probably the biggest thing that's happened in the last 30 years has been one of the two biggest things has been this Oxford Community Park. That was a terrific dream that has come true, and it's come true because of city efforts that have generated that. It's a huge complex. It's got several ball fields on it, both for soccer and flag football and baseball of different sorts. And then the community pool, kind of in the center, lower center there, is just an outstanding facility. And then of course the airfield off to the left on that picture. But the community park is an outstanding place. The playground, my kids were were too old when this was built, but my grandkids were there. So this has been just a nice, a wonderful place to go. This makes Oxford better. It makes my health better. And I think it makes my children and grandchildren's health better as well. Well, I want to turn our attention to a different part of Oxford, just to the northeast of Oxford. There are several areas of activity. The bridge was always there, that black covered bridge. But in about 2010 or so, I guess, wasn't even 1900s, 2010, the Three Valley Conservation Trust put together a fund drive and bought some land and then turned it over, resold it really to the Metro Parks of Butler County, and they have created a mill race preserve which is connected to the Black Covered Bridge. And that's up really close to the Black Covered Bridge. The Oats Trail, another city endeavor, is the second, I think, most significant thing to happen to Oxford, along with the community park, something that we should be very supportive of, and I am very proud of, very supportive of. We've always had Leonard Howell playing field, and Rooter Preserve did not exist in 1980s. It came about through a donation to the Three Valley Conservation Trust in the late 1990s. So that's where these places are. The Oats Trail travels along 4 Mile Creek and kind of passes through and near all of these things, these areas that are there. On a satellite, another view, we can see the Oats Trail itself. It's a terrific asset there. The satellite image here shows where these places are. It's a similar one. Rooter Preserve is in the lower portion. It's a little sliver of about 14 acres that straddles 4 Mile Creek and is at the end of actually it's Shadowy Hills, but it's right there at Bonham Road across from the Yager Stadium entrance. The Oats Trail is has handicap parking. This was a first for trails around here. They have handicap parking at every access that's there, the access on Bonham Road, the access near the DeWitt Cabin, and the new access over near Peffer Park. And so I'm really pleased to see that. Once someone gets out of their car, though, it's often a little bit of a sunny walk, which can be nice, to the kind of more serene forested area that I think is really terrific. Here's a part of the Oats Trail near the Black Covered Bridge, and on the left is a part of the new Oats Trail connecting Peffer Park with Route 73, Peffer Park with the DeWitt Cabin areas. Bicycles are allowed, motorized vehicles are not there, but this is terrific. There's a pedestrian or bridge separate to allow this access to come from come from the parking area near the DeWitt Cabin. Not all of the Oats Trail is completed. This is a portion that Miami University owns the property, and there is this will be made accessible for non-mobile people and handicap and chairs and strollers. Right now, it's not. It's in the flood zone. It gets flooded frequently, and it gets washed out. And so that is an issue that is slated for completion, I think, in 2023 is when this will be done. This is the plan for the trail. The purple at the top is completed. Phase 3 is completed. Or excuse me, phase 2 is completed. And phase 3 is yet to come there. So the purple is done, the green is done, and the orange, or the kind of reddish orange 3 there. The rest of the plans to as a perimeter trail are still being debated, still being discussed where exactly are the best plans for that. But the phase 2 is the newest one, and it is beautiful. It is absolutely gorgeous. Also in that squared area, just northeast of Miami University, we mentioned the Mill Race Preserve. That's owned now by the Butler Metro Parks. The other areas in brown or brownish orange are properties that Three Valley Conservation Trust is protecting through conservation easements. And Rooter Preserve is the one right close the closest one right to Oxford. So these others are under private easements owned by farmers. They will be conserved, or landowners at least. One of them is not a farmer. They will be preserved in their natural area. So I have a little video, and I hope this kind of works, talking about Three Valley Conservation Trust and what we're doing there. I'm going to see if I can get that to go. My name is Mark Boardman, and I'm a member of the Three Valley Board of Trustees. I'd like to share with you some information about the Rotary Preserve, the only property that Three Valley truly owns. As you can see, it's a riparian forest and frequently floods. It has been infested with honeysuckle, an invasive plant in this region. Because of this dense honeysuckle, the riparian forest is not accessible to many people. Three Valley Conservation Trust decided to remove the honeysuckle and make this region accessible to the public. A boardwalk is being built and will be ADA compatible. The boardwalk was built entirely by volunteers. In addition to the boardwalk, there are resting places and a handicap accessible parking facility. Come take a walk down our boardwalk. Phase 1 is completed, Phase 2 is nearing completion, and Phase 3 is on the way.
Good morning.
Good morning. So that's where we are today, I think, with a lot of the outdoor activities in and around Oxford. I think in the last 30 years, the decisions that have been made by individuals, by taxing ourselves, by volunteering to write grants, by volunteering to do the work, the physical work of getting these things together, the planning. We have made Oxford a place that I want to stay in. I want to be here. It's a wonderful place. It could be better, I guess. I mean, we all have little tweaks that we would do, but it's a terrific place. But I wonder about the future. We've done really well. I want to make sure that we're ready for the future. And so I'm going to present a few concerns that or data that we should be aware of as we're planning for the future. And the plans for the future will be, I think, controlled by, in some measure, by the comprehensive plan that City of Oxford and Oxford Township will make in the next few years. We have to realize that this is an area of tremendous population pressure growth. And between Cincinnati and Dayton, that corridor has grown tremendously, but it has bled over into Butler County. as well. And so in the 1970s, 1980s, 1990s, this is an ever increasing population density that is growing and growing in our area. And we have to realize that in addition to this population growth, which is going to continue, there's a newly emerged, although some of us have known about it for 30 years, and that is that climate change is going to affect us. It turns out it's not going to affect us directly. The temperature here and the drought incidences, the weather issues we'll have will increase. But overall, the message that I'm getting is that Butler County will be one of the refugia. It will be a place where climate change will have the least direct effect, but it will have an indirect effect. There are areas of the country that are going to be incredibly hot. They will get so hot that it will be considered uninhabitable for humans to live there year round. Phoenix, for example, is going to have maybe a quarter of their days over 95 degrees. That becomes uninhabitable. Some areas are going to be are going to have such high humidity along with high heat that it will be dangerous to live. And so that becomes an issue. So humidity, water vapor, is a climate change issue, and heat is a climate change issue. We can expect temperature in the next 30 years to increase in many places. And notice that Butler County up in Ohio, we will have an increase of temperature, but it won't be as dramatic as, say, Texas or some areas like in Arizona. Here they say under a worst case scenario, this is a worst case scenario, Phoenix would have 6 months a year above 95 degrees centigrade, 95 degrees Fahrenheit. That's pretty huge. We can expect forest fires to increase. We can expect some of those areas, Portland, where my son lives, they had air quality indices that were off the charts, that were in 500, 600, 700. Our typical air quality index is 20. I mean, this is unheard of before. The combination of temperature and humidity is going to make places like New Orleans in particular not habitable. People will not be able to comfortably and maybe even uncomfortably survive. And then sea level is going to rise a little bit. Already Miami, Florida is talking about how they're going to use pumping for a while, and Charleston routinely is flooded. Many of our major cities are coastal, and they will continue to experience more frequent flooding. This will make the area of habitation less. That will lower the area. And what that means is that the area in the United States that is really most suitable for growing crops and living, which today we are in, that area is going to move northwards. And those people living in the south and coastal areas are going to need another place to live, to find employment, to grow crops, just to grow. There's been a study that's county by county, and there are some counties that are going to be just not livable. And they're Louisiana, Mississippi, Arizona, South Carolina. Some of these areas, poor Hilton Head, some of these areas are going to be uninhabitable. On the other hand, some areas are going to be almost untouched by that. We'll have a slight heat increase, we'll have a slight humidity increase. Our farm crop yields are expected to increase in this area. Because of that, we'll have a longer growing season, and we'll have a more humid region if we can not experience episodic droughts. our particular county is going to be a refugia of places. What that means is that Butler County will be among the most desirable counties in the United States. This is year 2050 and beyond. Are we ready for it? Are we thinking about this? The past growth patterns are going to be exacerbated. The past growth patterns are going to be, and pressures are going to be increasing on us. And so the question I pose to myself and to you is, we've done an absolute stand-up job in the past in preserving outdoor space for us to have lower blood pressure, lower pulse rates, more active children. Are we prepared to take on the huge numbers of people who are going to come to this region? I don't think it's fair to say that we'll keep them out. I think we probably are going to do what we've done in the past: welcome them and continue to make accommodations in the outdoor activities that we can. There'll be many other activities. I'm just addressing the outdoor ones, the green ones. We're going to lose some farmlands as suburbia grows and kind of overwhelms some farms. Isolated farms are not productive. Farms need, individual farm plots need about 40 acres to be productive. And a region needs about 40% of the region to be farmland in order for that region to be productive in a farming sense. So we need to think about that, I think, as well. We need to think about aggregating our farms, finding out what are the best, where the best farmland is, where the best aquifers are, where are we going to get our food and water? And those have to be really critical things. And then where are we going to dispose of our food and water? And where are we going to live? How are we going to live? Oxford Township and City of Oxford in particular has clustered housing. Oxford Township has clustered housing now also. So we may have to limit everyone having their 3-acre, 4 or 5-acre area. That may not be compatible with a welcoming environment. We have the technology and the legal system to do that, and I think we should probably do that. So that's my question. That's my challenge to us. I will kind of leave you with that, saying that we have done we were good to begin with. We got in the last 30, 40 years just a terrific job. And I think it's up to us to make decisions, to begin to set the framework for decisions that will enable us to be resilient in this onslaught of people that we probably should expect. Even though the climate won't affect us directly, it will indirectly. So that's really what I had to do today to say. I'm going to stop my share and answer any questions.